Morning, Alex. Thank you for joining me as part of the PayApp's Surviving to Thriving series. You're Managing Director at Whitecode. Could you tell me a little bit about Whitecode and what your role entails?
Yeah, so Whitecode's a building services design consultant. We operate pretty much throughout the UK. We've got two offices, one in Northfleet in Kent and one in slightly nicer place in Durban in South Africa, servicing all building services design needs for clients from the Ministry of Justice through to developers, you know, in the mixed-use housing scheme, anything from a one-off house to a prison. We can produce designs, condition surveys, and anything in between, really.
I understand that training is really important at Whitecode, and at any one point in time, around 30% of staff are going through training. During the recent lockdown, there was a big focus on training, and you put more efforts into training to actually make sure you came out sort of stronger and sort of better positioned. So at a time when there was so much uncertainty, why did you feel that sort of using sort of lockdown as an opportunity to invest in training was a good idea?
I knew we would recover, so what I didn't want to do was waste valuable time. There's often never enough time in a day to do as much training as you want, so why not come back out the other end of a pandemic with staff who've utilised any slack that they had to get better at what we do. You know, there's always another body of training, there's always another course, there's another standard to read. You know, use your time as usefully as you can. And that was me as well, you know, read that article that you've never had time to read to educate yourself. I think it's really important, you know, engineers are very much about what we know, and if we don't know, we can't help. So, you know, it was really important to me to try and allow all of those engineers the time to do that extra thing, that CPD that they never would have had time for. And that meant they felt busy through lockdown, even if they had a little bit of slack, and that we could keep hold of all of our staff, you know, ready for the exit out.
Hindsight's a wonderful thing, and I don't think anybody quite knew the impact that sort of COVID and sort of the pandemic was going to have. But if you were to look back now, is there anything that you would have changed?
I think I probably would have stopped some of the design work to focus more on training. I feel like we had a bit of time, you know, we did, you know, you could see people stretching a bit of work out, and perhaps actually we could have just run at the same rate later on to maybe fit some more block training in. We would have been out of cope. You know, the construction industry runs at a rate of knots. It never seems to stop. It always gets faster. And you know, during lockdown, it did feel like that backed off a little bit. And I think we probably could have maybe stopped a few things here and there and gone for more block sessions with our team.
With the enforced lockdown, you took it as an opportunity to look at individuals' career paths and actually look at how those career paths sort of overlay against sort of business goals. So now we're coming sort of out of the pandemic and actually back to a new normal. You know, what impacts has that had on individuals and also the business as a whole?
I think we listened to staff. I mean, one of the things that we wanted was some benefit to the training that we do. So we've engaged with our professional institute, CIBSE, which is the Chartered Institute of Building Services Engineers, so that we're getting approval for the training that we already do, so to ensuring that the training that we're delivering provides a benefit of a faster route to professional recognition for our staff. And that came through as spades as the things that people wanted, you know, having structure that means that as they progress through the company, they're ticking off their CIBSE professional recognition, their engineering council recognition in the easiest possible method, for me, was something that we've now, we're just through the final stages. So, you know, we've put a lot of effort in over the last couple of years to actually align what we're doing with the CIBSE and Engineering Council process.
I understand that at any one point, Whitecode has a number of apprentices, but you also mentioned that yourself as a director, you were also doing training during lockdown. Why is it important for everyone to continue doing training?
So, for me, there's a lot of people in the industry that I find, I think, probably think once they've done their training, that's, you know, that's it, and then it's just experience based. And actually, for me, coming from part of my hobbies background, the way in which sort of the military think of it is that they think about skill fade. You know, if you don't pick up something and use it within a 6-month period, you're not current, if that makes sense. And actually, therefore, thinking like that within the business, during lockdown, I was able to start thinking about similarities and how do I improve the business. And actually, skill fade is such an important thing that people miss. If you don't pick up a calculator tool and use it, if you don't design a ductwork system, if you don't know how to use, you're not going to do it when you think you'll be able to need it. So how did I use that, or what's that? So for me, I think it's really important for everybody, wherever they are, in whatever part, is to never stop learning. I try to learn something new every day, using the cliche, but you know, realistically, I engage on a fire engineering degree course or design course, and you know, level 5 is complex, but I've really enjoyed it. You know, it's like going back to university again, but actually, it's given me a great grounding on, you know, some of the fundamentals that I've listened to in the industry that I can apply to also the building services world. And actually, if I'm passionate about doing it, I feel a bit of empathy for some of my staff who are doing their dissertations, their major projects. You know, they've got coursework to get in, and it gives you a shared understanding. And I think that's quite important as a business owner, to actually, you know, do what they're doing and actually deliver it as well.
The industry's fast changing. Do you think that the training providers have actually kept up with the changing pace of industry? Do you think the last couple of years has maybe, you know, made the course providers that look at the content and actually adapt?
I think going on, you know, the advent of the video call, because we got so used to it during those initial stages, we were like, oh, we just need to have a meeting, and there's this thing called Teams, and have you heard of Zoom? And all these various, and we all went, oh no, this is a good idea. And of course, training was then started to be delivered online, and it began to work, and we solved all of the problems of being able to mark something up and, you know, see what people were marking up. And actually, for me, it's meant that we can get training faster. You know, it's not so disruptive for staff, therefore people want to be trained more. So, you know, whereas, I've got to go on a 5-day course halfway up the country, you know, it's quite disruptive for my life, and maybe somebody won't put themselves forward. I can sit in my living room or my study or wherever, on my bed for all I care, you know, learn exactly the same level of learning, interact with people via chats and your own Zooms. So I think the industry has actually reacted to that quite well, and I think that my experience is I'm getting more training done than I was before, and I think that's really important, is actually to develop those online systems to actually deliver the same level of training as if you were sitting in the room.
Whitecode is a business, you're thriving at the moment. What's the secret to the success of the business?
I think that you need to enjoy what you do. I think if you don't enjoy what you do, you're in the wrong industry. And you know, I think that doing everything you do with a little bit of humour to make light of the pressure. I mean, Whitecode and the people that we work for will give ourselves and our clients will give us most ridiculous targets to deliver, and we'll do it with a bit of humour rather than pressure. And I think that if you enjoy what you do, and we try to provide an environment for our staff that they enjoy, you know, a management style that they can relate to, I think that the secret to what we do is enjoying it, and therefore, because we enjoy it, our clients enjoy working with us. That little bit of humour sometimes diffuses what can be quite a tense situation. You know, it can be a tense scenario that, you know, other people will find the pressure, and I think that we've been really tuned in to pressure and environment for our staff so that they enjoy what they do.
The industry is probably facing a bit of a sort of perfect storm at the moment. So we've got increase in terms of regulations and legislations, but we've also got scarcity in terms of materials and sort of labour. What does the industry need to do to continue to thrive over the coming years?
the shortage of labour is about training. I mean, yesterday I was in my grammar school. I was encouraging, students there that the construction industry, and obviously I'm biased, the bit that I do, the building services world, it's a great career. And, I've managed to encourage my old school to run a construction course. The last 4 years has been brilliant for us. We're picking up guys and girls from A-levels and more girls. That's been brilliant, more girls, which, construction has been a very male-dominated field for years. Encouraging them that construction is so varied that it's a career path that they should get involved in. I think that if we've got good, well-trained staff, the challenges of new regulation and the challenges of construction material supply can be resolved. But if you've got one person, one guy, one girl, one surveyor that's desperately trying to find something because of a problem, if there's two of them, it becomes less of a load. So I think that the skills shortage is probably the most important thing that we need to solve, because there'll always be material supply problems, there'll always be regulations, but there needs to be the right amount of people to deliver the construction output first that can then be there to solve those challenges. And I think, rightly so, as we continue to develop our regulations and improve our efficiencies and give ourselves harder targets and set the bench higher, we need people that will be there to advise the client, work out what needs to change, find that different supplier, value engineer that material, because you can't get it because there's been another problem in the world. It's a global market. We don't make a lot here anymore. We've got to source it from around the world. There will always be challenges.
If we look at those challenges, one of the challenge industries often sort of been accused of is that we're slow to change. We have a bit of a mindset of we've always done it this way. So if you look at it from a new entrant, a new person coming in the industry, how do we change that mindset about new ways of working, and how do we make sure we're upskilling the existing staff to look at new ways of working?
I think communication is probably one of the most important things around understanding change. I think we're slow to change because we don't necessarily get the message out there. So I'll sit with clients and say, have you seen the new Part S? What's Part S? And I think that communication, how we engage with the industry, we've just got to get better at it. More people like me talking about, the new charging Part S, what are the changes for Part L, what's possibly coming in the fire world, telling our clients what sits in draft before it lands in their desk. I think that draft consultation process would enable us to change faster.
One of the big areas of change that's coming through is obviously digitisation. So if you take, for example, pay apps is a good example in terms of procurement solutions and payment solutions. Where do you see the barriers to adoption in terms of digitisation? What do companies need to do to break those down to actually...
I think quite often we found as a business that, the previous structure and ownership, we would focus on capital cost. And actually, when you break down a solution that you're looking to deliver, it's about the time saving for the business. And when you look at that time that you will save, that would release those individuals to do more high value tasks, from my perspective, the capital pales into insignificance. If you focus on what it costs to deliver, every time we've ever tried to deliver anything digitally, the costs are the capital cost. Yes, it's always a factor in decision making, but truly understanding the time saved and the value of those individuals to go and do something that's got more value for you as a business, you won't worry about the capital. If you can truly do that analytics, and I think that getting better as an industry at understanding that and the tools to analyse that, I think will make digitisation a far faster process in every element that we do in construction.
But there seems to be something that, as an industry, we keep doing time and time again. We're always looking at unit cost at procurement, not long-term value over a period of time. We are hung up on that initial cost. Is it again another human nature, that barrier that we need to break down?
Perhaps in all the standards that we do and all the costs, that, you know, all of the regulations, perhaps we need to think on a structure to help small. I think bigger companies get it. You know, the bigger you are, you're very in tune with what things cost you to do. But actually, maybe some tools for smaller industry adopters that enable them to have a quick framework, a calculator that looks at what the time saved by inputting some data. I realise that means using a digital system to digitise, but do you see what I mean? If somebody can have something that it gives them a very quick understanding, then the capital will pale into insignificance, if that makes sense.
One final question. If there was one bit of advice you could give anyone in terms of how to continue thriving moving forward, what would it be?
Enjoy what you do. If you don't enjoy what you do, go do something else. I enjoy what I do every day. I've laughed this morning with a client over a situation, and I think that if you don't enjoy what you do, then you're never going to be in the right place and you're not going to be happy. So I think that's the one thing, you know, don't take everything too seriously, even when it's going terribly wrong. Stand back and laugh at the situation you find yourself in, and actually the solution will present itself.
Alex, thank you very much for talking to me today.
Thank you.